So, good morning, Greater Lake Houston area. John Ramoyne here, and I'm supporting Bob with RadioKair, and we are going down the path of our salute to our veterans, spending some time understanding their businesses, really trying to showcase what they do in our community, how they support each other. We're going to talk with Dennis Doolin from JDog Junk Removal and Hauling. He is one of me and my wife's close family friends. Him and Katie are at the house often, and I couldn't let this Veterans Day go by without making sure I got Dennis in here so me and him could talk, have some fun, probably laugh a few times, and then highlight what him and Katie are doing with their business. So first off, welcome, Dennis.
Thanks, John. It's good to be here. Honored to be here.
Yeah. So I don't want to go any further until me and you talk a little bit about your service, and I want to talk about it in the framework of thank you for your service. Okay, so me and you are good friends. You're at the house a lot. I think you know my personality well enough to know that I respect our veteran community. Me and you talk about your service. We talk about others in our community and their service. But it's probably my fault. I don't tell you enough of when I say thank you for your service, what that means. So I was listening to Dave, the Houston's Veteran Chamber of Commerce president, the other day, and one of the things he said is, hey, a couple of things our community needs to do better. And to me, it rang true one of two ways, because we have Veterans Day. It's Saturday. Me and you are going to be watching college football, NFL football, all these things. People are going to be wearing desert sand, camo, logos are going to be changed, all those things to support. And I think those are all great ideas because it does increase awareness. But I think what the corporate environment needs to do a better job of highlighting why we thank our veterans and why personally it helps our community. And two, maybe spend a little more time highlighting veteran-owned businesses. You know, Amex does a Small Business Saturday, and I think maybe we could do something along those lines as a community to make sure that people spend money in the right direction. So whenever I say thank you for your service, I want you to know the reason why me and my family appreciate the sacrifices you've made is, first, the sacrifices that you and your family made. I went to college. I did not join the military. If I was to do it again, I would do it 100 times out of 100. But you know, there's risk associated, and I know that you and Katie had to recognize that risk. I know that you had a choice to make early in your career of going away from the people you know, love, and trust around you, your family, your friends, for an extended period of time. For me, early in my career, it was, hey, I'm going to go stay in Oklahoma City for 3 days, right? Yes, I'm away from my family, but I'm not away from my family for months on end with no end in sight, right? And then whenever I get to Oklahoma City, I'm staying in a Hilton. You know, I'm not staying in a hot box somewhere in a desert. So I understand and recognize the sacrifices that you chose to make in service of our country, and I thank you for that, first and foremost, with being away from your family. And then the second, but it's not any less important, but the potential risk that you placed on yourself, your well-being, your physical and psychological well-being, placing that risk to know that something bad could have happened. You know, you could have been physically damaged, hurt. You could have came back with different capacities, both physically and psychologically. And I want you to know that those risks are not, I recognize those risks, and I thank you and Katie for what you and your family sacrificed in serving our country.
Thanks. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now let's get into Dennis Doolin, you personally, you and your beautiful wife, Katie, and what you do. What brought you to sit here today? Did you, growing up, where were you born and raised? What brought you into the service? Let's talk about all that before we get into kind of the business side of it, because I've said this over and over in these interviews, but I think, and me and you understand this because we talk about this often, people choose to do and connect with people and not with organizations in most cases. So once we understand who a person is, we are far more willing to give, sacrifice, and really spend time with them to help them elevate their business. So tell us a little bit about you.
Oh man. So, growing up in rural Illinois, Edwardsville, Illinois, being in a Catholic school, being in the Boy Scouts and stuff, service has always been a part of my life. My dad was a prior Air Force veteran. Mom was a nurse. So in the community, we were always involved growing up. And that's what I was looking at as going through high school, looking to see what I wanted to do. It was, where do I go? I wasn't great enough athletically to get a good scholarship. My grades were good, but not good enough to get a great academic scholarship. So what am I going to do with my life? Started looking at military service and what I wanted to do. I wanted to be in the medical field. What I found was the Navy had the best enlisted medical corps there was, being a hospital corpsman, and it gave me the opportunity to serve. Heck, I was looking to get paid to be educated and get paid to travel. Honestly, when I first started looking at the military, so that's what I did. Katie and I were in high school together, high school sweethearts. So it was. When I graduated boot camp and A school, came back home, going to my first duty station, we decided to get married. The best thing in my life. She's always been great support. And that's when you're talking about Veterans Day and things of that nature and the sacrifices that people make, don't lose sight of the spouse. It's, we're on the front lines. We got steel rain pouring down on us, bullets coming our way. But it's the spouse that is there backing that person, really making that effort possible. As I was calling home from Iraq and had to hang up because steel rain's coming down, Katie's hearing that in the background, saying, "What's coming next? Is he coming home?" Mm-hmm. So without that support, nothing would be possible.
Yeah, and I tried. I think we recognize the sacrifices your family do. At least I do, because I think about it a lot. But I think about, we all worry about our spouses or our dads and our moms when they're away, no matter what might happen. But you're obviously in a much more adverse environment, being overseas and specifically in combat. So I couldn't imagine, my wife being away and those thoughts of what could, and the movies you see and the gore, and then you come home and you explain some of the things you saw, did, you were forced to do, and it's just a nightmare for like I said, months and years on end, I'm sure, for each of the military spouses. So I always try to include the family sacrifice, and completely agree with you. So Illinois and then Catholic school. I wouldn't know where you went to Catholic school, but I've got some opinions there. My dad went, and he's got some great stories about growing up in Catholic school. Your dad was in the Air Force, and then you chose the Navy. Was there some arguments there between you and your father whenever that decision was made?
No, not at all.
Really?
And actually, my grandfather was in the Navy in World War II.
Okay.
And I've got all his memorabilia on the wall and everything as well. But again, I was looking for something specifically for the medical field, and far and away, the best trained and most adaptable folks in the medical field come from the Navy, in my humble opinion. Of course, I'm biased because I am a Navy corpsman, obviously, but I think when you're out with folks, whether it's on a ship, what we refer to as being blue side corpsman, or what I was out in the field with Marines, what we refer to as a green side corpsman. If you earn the title DOT, that's a very high compliment. It's you're doing what you're supposed to do, and that's why I went into the Navy.
Yeah. So a couple of things there. We'll talk about the doc title in a second because it's me and you have talked about that over beer a few times and what that means to you and the way that title is not something that's thrown around. I want to talk about that in detail but first I wanted to talk. My fear with joining the military is, or was at that time, okay, I considered joining the Navy. That's who hit me up pretty hard in recruiting whenever I was a senior in high school. I was pretty good at academically, so I think I probably had a good chance. I was pretty good athletically of getting into a higher rank type position pretty early and selected for kind of what I wanted to choose to do instead of just where they were going to put you. But that was always in the back of my mind of a fear of joining the military is okay, I want to, like you say you wanted to go into the medical field. If I would have put down, yeah, that was an interest to me, my fear was always, okay, yeah, well, that means I'm going to be, cooking in a submarine for, 7 years. Is it in the military? Do you really have more of a decision to make about your future career? Or is my fear of just they're going to put you where they put you, is that a reality?
So everybody's different, right? So if you've got the good grades in high school, and you test well on the ASVAB, the military entrance exam and things, the higher score that you have, the more you're able to select things yourself. So if you're not very physically fit, if you don't have high scores, you're more apt to be put where the greatest need is, whatever branch of service that is.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I guess it's some of it is is you have a proven track record, whether it's academically in school or athletically, and then they see that probably and they say, okay, we can assign this person because his capacities are a little excelled. But I always had that fear of, they're going to put you, a couple 100 meters below water and stand, float around in the ocean for a few months on end.
That's what we call the needs of the Navy.
Yeah. So maybe that's why God called me to college instead of that, because I might have been one of those people.
Yeah.
So Corpsman, that's something me and you've talked about over a few adult beverages, and that's something I know you hold pride in, and rightfully so from your explanations you've given to me. Let's go down what I didn't understand whenever you started first explaining Corpsman, what that was, right? I've heard that title, I've heard that name in movies and all those kind of things, but does someone who's never served in the military understand that? Absolutely not. So first describe, I guess, for everyone, what is an actual Corpsman, and then that should lead you into when you're good at what you do and your assignments, then you get kind of an honorary badge, if you will, of a different title.
So a corpsman is somebody who specializes in the medical field, a field medic, or on a ship, given basic courses in first aid initially through A school, and then you have opportunities to do other things, whether it's going to a C school to get a technical specialty, whether it's more school to become more proficient, going to field medical school, going to EMT school, things of that nature to learn more and get more proficient at that skill. But when we're on a ship or with the Marines, it's much more than that. We're with these folks day in, day out, 24/7, 365. So in many cases, we hear things, see things, get more close to the people we're serving with than even some of their own families. They're on deployment with us. They're not back home with their wives, so they can't necessarily vent to their wife. They can't do things. So the corpsman becomes that trusted person where we're the psychologist, the therapist, the priest, the everything else with the individuals on the ground as well, giving them not just medical advice, but life advice.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I would have never, you hear movies where somebody yells medic, right? And I assume if you're a Marine unit, then that typically means the corpsman that's assigned to that unit, correct? So you hear those terms, okay, now corpsman comes along. But in my mind, not being from the military, I would have never connected the dots to know that, well, since he's not really in the Marines, right? It's got to be a different relationship already, a different dynamic in that unit. And then second, yeah, you have a special skill that they know they're going to need, but the special skill goes beyond just, your ability to treat, emergencies in the field. It's also, the psychology of battle is a challenge. Am I right? I mean, that's what a lot of guys struggle with, even as they come home. But you being on the front lines with these young men, young women, and then having the abilities. I mean, just because you're who you are, you have the ability to just communicate and relate, and then you're talking them through scenarios to keep them level set where they don't get themselves at risk, right? And so that's quite a talent. So whenever they say doc to a corpsman, what are they saying? I mean, what have you earned, in your opinion, to earn that title from a Marine or from even somebody from the Navy? Whenever they title you, hey, you're doc now versus.
So that is in performance again, how you choose to develop yourself in addition to the very basic schools it is. You get a 10-week A school, an 8-week C school. You take an 18-year-old kid, send them to 24 weeks of school, and they're expected to perform. It doesn't always happen that way. But the folks who take that on as a challenge, get themselves physically fit, to where we were running the Marine Corps PFT, not just Navy standards, but we were at Marine Corps standards, doing all the land navigation courses, doing everything out in the field that a Marine has to learn. We did as well, and there were times where I could get us out of trouble faster than a Marine could because I was better at land navigation than some of the Marines. Being learning how to use the radio and calling in what we call a 9 line, which is for medevac support. All of those things. It's not just hands-on putting pressure on a bleeding wound. It's everything that goes with it. We learned it, we did it, and because we're able to perform under all of those conditions and do things that are way outside of any expectations, that's where you earn that title, doc.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, the ability to execute, right? So in the military, there's training for everything, right? Basic is they're taking someone who doesn't have any combat experience, and in 13 weeks, they're changing their mindset, they're changing their abilities. A lot of people change physically pretty quick, and then getting them ready for combat. And then for you go through the basic world, and then you go through X number of weeks to get you trained in the corpsman responsibilities. And above and beyond that, now you've got to go through a different type of training, which is the Marine Corps training, because you're in the same trenches they are. You're in the same rooms. You have to be able to react similarly to the way they react in certain scenarios. So I imagine they're looking at you in a leadership role, right? The title doc sounds like a leadership role for them of, hey, this guy can get it. If we're in trouble, there's certain things he can do that are above and beyond using an ace bandage.
Yeah, One instance, we were just outside the Jordanian border. We'd been up for a little over 72 hours straight, my Marines were tired. I was in the back of a Humvee getting a couple Z's every once in a while, so I was a little bit more rested than them. When we needed somebody on security, I picked up my weapon and I was standing out in point. Now, when the commander's vehicle came by, the staff sergeant in charge was a little upset that Doc was out there on point, because what happens if Doc get popped,
Yeah.
then what are the Marines going to do? So he didn't like that, but yeah, that's the type of thing that, that is why they call us Doc. We don't shirk those responsibilities.
Yeah, that was cool for me to learn, and I appreciate you explaining that in that way, because you've explained that to me before. But still, like I said, if you're not from the military world, you don't understand the differences, right? Some of the titles and acronyms and all the things that military understand and can communicate with each other, we're sitting on the sidelines going, what? But it is cool to understand that. So deployment, you went overseas. How long were you away? What countries did you visit?
So, I mean, non-combatant type of deployments, 3. I mean, I visited 14 other countries throughout my time. But from being based in Okinawa and going all over Southeast Asia, working with Republic of Korea Marines and other nationalities, doing different joint training exercises, to combat deployments to Iraq. Any one of them is 6 months to a year long. My deployment to Iraq was 8 months. Was based out of Camp Takatum, and our battalion aid station was supplementing medical support to a Marine unit that did convoys. They provided convoy security, so all the beans, bullets, Band-Aids, everything that went around the country, they had to have support so that those vehicles weren't taken out and things of that nature. So we were all over the Anbar province of Iraq, from the Jordanian border and Syrian border down to the Kuwaiti border into Baghdad a lot, on the road quite a bit.
Okay. And I've said this in previous interviews, and we thank you for your service, because whenever I travel for work, I would often try to book training in nicer areas of the country, right? I wouldn't want to be in Minneapolis, St. Paul in February, for example. I would want to be maybe in Miami in February, and then maybe up there in the summer when it gets hot. So I always kind of scheduled myself that way. Military doesn't have that opportunity, right?
No.
You go to Iraq any time of the year. My thought, and I don't know this, I've never obviously been there, but my thought is it's pretty extreme climate nonstop. So my thought is it's going to be crazy hot certain times of the year, and then crazy cold certain times of the year. And then guess what? The other thing you get to play and have fun with is blowing sand at X number of miles per hour at your face for 24 days on end, whether it's hot sand or cold sand, right? And so I think the weather extremes are pretty constant. Is that accurate about deployment in Iraq?
Oh yeah, that's very accurate. Whether it's 115 degrees, we got off the plane when we landed at 1 a.m. and the thermometer said 112 degrees. I thought it was just the heat from the engines on the plane, but now as I walked across it didn't get any cooler. We as we go into the winter there, it rains a little bit more, and you have 50-degree temperature changes every 12 hours. So it's 100 degrees in the morning and 40 degrees at night. And if you don't pack appropriately when you're in a Humvee with, a gun turret that's open and the wind coming down through that, it gets a little chilly, at 40 degrees after you're used to 100 degrees. So that's the hottest and the coldest I've ever been, all in the same day.
And then not to mention that whenever you're traveling, right? So sometimes you don't have the luxury of a Humvee. Sometimes you're walking it. And then now if you happen to do the wild temperature change, it's okay. you're carrying all the gear to go down to 40.
Yeah.
So now you have the weight of it whenever it is 112 degrees on your back, and you've got to carry it. So that is remarkable. All right, and then Japan. You said that early. You went to Japan. I saw that is a pretty common place for a lot of people to take their first deployments, or at some point hit Okinawa or somewhere in Japan. And for everyone's telling me what a cool assignment that is. Is that a good one, or did you enjoy it there?
I've enjoyed pretty much everywhere I've been, except getting shot at or blown up. But it's a great place to be. The Japanese people are great people. They have their moments. They don't like having foreigners in their country, so they'll have days of protest where they're just saying Americans go home. But then the very next day we're having beer in a karaoke bar again. So it was a great experience.
Cool. Okay, so you go through, and how many years did you serve total?
20 years, 3 months, 15 days. So who's counting? So
yeah, no kidding. So 20 years in, that's a long time. I actually had somebody that was here, Mr. Vargas, and he was 21 years, which I thought, oh my Lord. So Katie obviously was dealing with a lot for a long period of time.
Still is, but yeah.
Well, yeah. There's no doubt there. So Katie's dealing with a lot, 20 years of you away, you guys are having kids, she's raising them at home, you're not able to necessarily watch them grow up in a traditional sense. And I'm not saying you're obviously a great father and those kind of things, but it does put an additional challenge and burden on Katie. And then after 20 years, what'd you do in your career after that?
So I stayed in the healthcare field, and worked. I was in the military. I was trained as a medical laboratory technician. So I stayed in the laboratory field, what I was trained in. Worked at a forensic toxicology lab for a little while. Then found a group where they were starting up freestanding emergency rooms, micro hospitals, and I worked with them for a number of years. And it just throughout that, we started hitting the pandemic phase, and all of the administrative burdens and all the politics of the healthcare field just really burned me out. So I was looking for something different. Did some of my own consulting for a little while, helping places start up. But even that, I was on the road a lot, 220 days a year on the road still. And was always working to help other businesses. So I was looking for something that would put me in the local community and stay home with my family. Something to do on my own where it would be build my own legacy versus somebody else's legacy. And started researching what I could do with low startup costs. I wanted something that was veteran friendly. So JDog rose to the top, and went to a discovery dinner and met the owners, the founders, Jerry and Tracy Flanagan. We clicked with their corporate headquarters team. Just decided to go ahead and buy a franchise. We like the mission of JDog. They want to get veteran unemployment down to less than 1%. They have JDog Foundation, where they give back to organizations that support veteran mental health. So all of those things just really resonated with us and helped us decide, I'm going to leave the healthcare field now and start my own business doing junk removal.
Yeah.
A little bit of a switch.
Yeah, quite a switch. But yeah, so freestanding ERs, I was talking to one of the previous interviewers about your experience with that, because you explained that to me before, and I wanted to touch on that in reference to your military experience. Obviously, they correlate, those two experiences and skills, but one of the reference points you're explaining to me one night was you've got a bunch of doctors and nurses that are going to go into new freestanding clinic that you guys are setting up. And you already understand and can speak that language on their terms, which is a pretty impressive skill set in itself, right? I was telling him that you gave the example of looking at what they were going to treat and what we would consider a trauma in an ER scenario in a hospital, and then you're going to need to do X, Y, and Z because you had seen similar things in deployment, and guess what? You're not a doctor.
Right.
so I think that's an impressive skill that and then you totally switch gears, totally change what you're doing, and now you're into the JDog junk removal and hauling, which to me is but it's been awesome to I like manual labor a lot, right? I enjoy it. And Dennis does too, from his skill set and is way different and not necessarily manual labor. Me and him kind of connect in that way of we don't mind rolling up our sleeves a little bit, sweating for a day and figuring out how to move some heavy stuff around. So is in JDog junk removal and hauling, I'm kind of getting to the value of what you do. People have stuff in their house. They have the ability to move or they don't. Right? Whether it's too heavy or they don't have the right equipment, or they sometimes it's just they don't want to, or they don't want to address the big pile in the garage, those kind of things. So I think that working with you and watching what you do, what are some quick stories or a quick few reference points for us to understand what value you do provide with, hey, common phone calls you receive on what it is and maybe why we want to influence our community to go ahead and use your services as opposed to thinking they're going to do it themselves and never do. The example is my neighbor that has the branches in the yard and they finally got picked up yesterday, I think. And this was months on end, right? So, but those type of examples of when should somebody consider referring you out to the community?
Oh, goodness. I mean, the situations there are wide and varied. Whether it's a small item, a single item that's just really heavy, a refrigerator, a gun safe, something that people either don't have the manpower or equipment or whatever to handle themselves, we have a way to get that item from wherever it is in the house, get it loaded on the trailer, and dispose of it properly. Whether it's a lot of items, an entire house that needs to be cleaned out, multiple trailer loads of things, we can go in and do that. Whereas, a couple, may have a few friends and pickup trucks that they can get in there. We've got a professional staff that we can go in and get it cleared out quickly and effectively, without injuries.
Kind of.
Kind of, yeah. We don't want people hurting themselves. So and then everything in between. Some of the biggest thing, we all develop sentimental attachment to things, and it's walking through those things with people to help them, give them a third person perspective to say, is this staying or going? How long has it been since you touched that item? Do you really look at it? Do you really value it and honor it, or can it go? We'll take the time to go through and do that with folks to help separate that sentimental attachment from things to what they really need in their lives and get rid of the clutter.
Yeah, it is cool. Dennis, I've helped him with a couple of things. Good referral partners that I've seen Dennis work with is anywhere from the commercial real estate, or not real estate, but retail operation. There's big drugstores, and I won't use their name, but big drugstores around the community, and they're pretty much on every corner. And he's got an arrangement with them to where they just call him, and when the store manager has something they want disposed of, they basically call Dennis, and he comes along with the truck and knocks it out, and typically an hour or two, and gets it going. Then there's also the real estate partners that you have, real estate professionals that do have, hey, there's a changing of hands of a property. Maybe it was somebody that passed away and the property was handed down to the kids and they're trying to, okay, we're just going to sell this. And now they've got a whole house full of stuff. They've already gone in, taken the parent stuff that, they wanted to keep. And then now they've got all this stuff. What do you do with it? And Dennis, me and him and another military veteran worked, and his wife worked for a day on that one. But we made good work of it on things that would take, talk about how long does it take you and your team versus how long would it take a typical homeowner to get that same task accomplished? Because that one would have taken me and my family a while.
Yeah. And that's, as you're going through things in your own home, trying to get rid of things, I see it all the time. People pick up this box that they haven't seen in 2 years old, and then they have a 20 or 30-minute conversation about that box and the memories that they had with that, versus us. We can respectfully go in and while we still value your memories, we understand that object is not really what controls that, and we can just, move it to where it needs to be quickly and appropriately, not take 20 minutes to discuss it.
Yeah, no, it's, when you can clean out an entire house that hadn't been touched for an extended period of time in, less than a day, and far less than a day, how much of a value is that to a real estate person that says, hey, I've got to get painters in here. I've got to get floor guys in here.
We're closing at 9:00 tomorrow. This needs to be gone. Yeah.
So, that's quite a value, and you can make quick work, and you've got enough connections in the community to get the right people there to support you. So it is awesome to have that. Okay. So JDog, junk removal and hauling. The one thing that we haven't talked about is kind of the, the cans you bought. What's the hope for your, roll-offs that you bought?
So really, we wanted roll-off dumpsters because we were getting calls from businesses and people. They didn't want the expense of the full service operation where our team goes in, evaluates everything. We'll get stuff from wherever it is in the house or the yard, load it ourselves and haul it away. So that's our full service stuff. The DIY folks, the folks doing remodeling and things that don't want to have the large expense with the labor cost attached to do all that stuff for them, we have a 20 cubic yard dumpster that we can put right in their driveway, and then they can load whatever they want in there. And we'll drop the dumpster off, pick it up, and haul it away at a cheaper cost than a full service.
Yeah, that's good for the homeowner, right? That's good for the end client, but you also have relationships that you've built with other people in construction, in home service improvement. Can you talk about who a good referral partnership for your company might be, whether it's, somebody that does this thing in the home that maybe can use the roll-off services that you provide?
So from a business perspective, you're asking about the right? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So again, we're not looking to replace the large companies. Waste management is a general term to not just a company.
Yeah. It's like
Kleenex. Yeah. But we're not looking to compete with them or replace what they do, large scale things. But when somebody's compactor breaks and they have dumpster overflow problems, or that the bigger companies are going to charge you a lot of fees to go fix or can't fix because they don't have it's not on their regular pickup schedule. We'll be happy to go in and take care of those dumpster overflow problems. We'll provide that roll-off dumpster temporarily until the compactor is fixed.
What size are those?
Those are 20 cubic yards is the only size that we have.
And
so
for someone like me, what fits in 20 cubic yards?
So if you think of a clothes washing machine, that's roughly 1 cubic yard. So we could fit up to 20 clothes washing machines in our container.
It feels like more.
It feels like more. But it measures 16 foot in length, 7 foot in width, and 5 foot high walls.
So if you were to clean out a whole house, would that be a typical furniture in a home? Would that be a 2-bedroom home, a 1-bedroom, 3-bed?
Two-bedroom home.
Okay. All right. Good. Okay. So that gives people a perspective. All right. So any other services that you guys provide before I get into my last 2 questions?
We're willing to help people with pretty much anything, whether it's providing general labor services. You need things picked up from a store and hauled back to your house because you've got a large barbecue pit that you can't haul in your sedan or whatever. We'll do that hauling for you. Cleaning up yard debris from a yard. Just need things moved from the second floor down to the first floor or vice versa. We'll help provide that labor service, those hauling services. People that are getting ready to remodel things, if we need to pull out some drywall and things, light demolition in conjunction with our junk removal service, we're happy to do that. You're remodeling your kitchen and want all the old cabinets to go, we'll demo that stuff and pull it out.
Perfect. So there's competition in what you do, right? We've seen since I met Dennis, and sometimes it wakes your mind's eye, I guess, a little bit about other companies that do this. What makes you and Katie and your family better at this than some of the competition? I'm not telling you to talk bad about competition, but what do you hold pride in what you guys do that you think the competition simply can't compete?
So, we bring the military values and ethics into what we do, respect, integrity, and trust, so that we're always interacting with customers on that level, and combine that with the fact that our overall mission with JDog as a whole, each franchisee is looking to support veteran groups and individual veterans by hiring veterans, reducing that veteran unemployment rate to below 1%, giving back to charitable organizations that support veteran mental health. We do things in an eco-friendly manner to where 60-80% of the things that we take in are kept out of the landfill through donations, repurposing, recycling. And then we just follow through with what we say we're going to do. Just had a case 2 days ago. A lady called us, 2 weeks ago, asked for a quote. I gave her a quote with a written estimate, and this was to clean out a 3-bedroom home. Told her what it was going to be. She shopped around, found a lower cost company. The guy never showed up. And then in talking with her, it was, hey, I think this guy gave me half of your quote just to earn the business. And I was, afraid that, if he did show up, by the time everything was loaded on the truck, the bill was going to be 2 to 3 times more. We don't do that. We give upfront pricing, what we say we're going to do. If I underbid it, I'll eat the cost for what I underbid. If I overbid it, we only charge for what actually goes on the truck. So I'll say, hey, I quoted you 3/4 of a truck. We only put half a truck on there. So the cost is only going to be this much. And that's all they get charged is what actually goes on the trailer.
That's super cool. Yeah, bringing the military values back in, that's a lot of your tag, and I've heard it over and over, but respect, integrity, and trust. And that doesn't happen in home services. I think the more experiences, probably you too, but me, that I have with home service companies, because I was competing with other ones, right? I was competing with a Chuck in the trucks, just like you are. And the more you have with those no-name people that kind of go with the wind, the more times you see people get burned.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I know I cost a little more sometimes, but whenever I give you that price, that's what check you're going to write me. That's what I'm going to charge your card. It's not going to be, hey, I'm going to get, half of the job done and be like, well, this is what we agreed to. So now I'm going to leave you with half the mess.
Right.
So no, I appreciate that, and that's something that people that typically join chambers of commerce, people that are in our veteran community, those type of people typically operate in that manner, right? The chuck in the truck with maybe his name plumbing on the side of his van. I don't know that guy's really in it for the long term for our community. So there's good ones that do that, right? But more often than not, I see that there's a problem somewhere in that. Whether they're just going raw after price, and at that point, buyer beware, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so the one thing you mentioned before we move on to the last question is the repurposing, because I know that Katie works a great deal in that, and I always think I know she has fun with it, right? There's no doubt she's having a blast, finding cool trinkets, treasures in your, in the removal part, and going, hey, there's some value here. So can you explain maybe one item you found that goes, and then Katie found some real value on it? That's a pretty cool story, because I know friends that have done that for a living and found really cool stuff really fast, and I imagine you've got some great ones.
Oh my goodness. Katie's got an eye for there's not a job that goes by where I'm trying to put things on the truck saying, no, this has outlived its usefulness. And she's like, oh no, put that aside. We can do something with that. McDonald's glasses. As a matter of fact, just the other day, I was like, hey, these cheap little Happy Meal glasses, she's like, oh no, collectors love that. We can get this in front of collectors, and that'll give us the funds to be able to send to JDog Foundation so that we can support veteran mental health. Okay, I'll start saving McDonald's glasses. Yeah. But goodness, there's,
it's neat to find stuff, people, the collectors of the world, right? And now with the internet as fast as it is, you can connect with those collectors so fast. Whereas, whenever we were younger, you would have a garage sale and hope and pray that person knew the value of certain things, right? And they showed up. But now it's you can connect really quick.
And even one of the cool things is, so there's a woodworking teacher in New Caney High School that they're looking for furniture to help give to the kids so they can refinish them, repurpose them, and then the high school is able to resell that stuff after it's done, and the proceeds go back to the high school, help the kids again. Yeah. So a lot of the furniture we're able to take in, we can start working with the woodworking team at the school.
That's
I mean, it's just finding creative ways to find new life for old things is good.
Yeah. All right. So let's get into what I think I hold most important. It's kind of the community give back, and how are each of these businesses contributing back to our community. You mentioned the JDog Foundation and kind of what they stand for. What other community give backs does JDog, and more specifically you and Katie, believe in? What do you guys do?
So, again, working with the schools to provide things, helps educate the schools, helps support those programs when they resell things. So we like doing that. We like working, with veteran organizations as we find veterans in need. A lot of the things we take in, the dishes, some of the clothes, some of the things, they're still in good shape. So we're able to donate those to organizations. And we even work with charitable organizations other than veteran organizations, whether it's the Village Thrift Shop. Am I allowed to say? I'm going to use names.
Yeah, that's fun.
We work
Don't
with
talk
the
bad
Villages
about them.
Thrift Shop. No, we love those guys. It's a great organization. They support special needs adults. Have the homes. We provide stuff with them. Habitat for Humanity Restore we'll give to them. HAM. All the organizations out there that are doing great things in the community, we're figuring out ways to get things to them. And if a customer really wants the tax-deductible receipt from that, we can get that in their name and give that tax-deductible receipt back to the customer that we got the items from.
Yeah, I'm going to make an introduction to you to somebody I interviewed early last week, and I didn't put the two together until you were saying that, but David Urban, we did an interview with him, and he has United Veterans Health Centers. And so he has started a nonprofit. He was a veteran that battled homelessness at one time because he was struggling, with some demons through his service. And when he came back, he's came out of that. And through that, he started his own foundation. And they have a specific need for donations, just like you're talking about. So it's United Veterans Health Centers.com, David Urban. I'll make an intro there to you because a lot of the things you're saying is, they take, as weather changes, which is going to do in a couple of days, right? It's going to get down in the 40s in a few days. It's going to go from 80 to 40 really quick. Well, there's people that aren't protected from the elements that he can take those clothings or, different things and provide those. So I'd make that connection. And that's a great work. That's great work. And then the schools is awesome. It's anything you can do to, I'm not going to say lower our tax bill because it's not going to lower it, but, find creative ways to help support the trades in our schools, right? So we've talked a lot about in past interviews about essential trades, and let's get, maybe more kids going in that direction that don't have the desire for college. The essential trades is a shortage right now. Mm-hmm. We need electricians. We need plumbers. We need welders. Those positions and what you're doing only supports that, right? So a kid that's doing woodworking, refinishing furniture is probably somebody that's going to go into essential trades and probably be pretty good at it. So, yeah. So I love that theory. Okay. All right. So last but not least, well, second to last, what did I forget? What did I not discuss?
Other than how to contact us.
Well, that was the last question I had. Yeah. So how do you like being contacted?
So folks can get a hold of us in any number of ways. By phone, our direct number is 832-995-8654. That we can take text or voice on that phone number.
One more time, that's
832-995-8654.
Okay.
Our toll-free number is 844-GET-JDog.
That's an easy one.
And then we can be found on the web at www.jdogjunkremoval.com.
So on your .com, it's
www.jdogjunkremoval, all one word, .com.
Okay. So on that website, do you have the ability to book appointments?
So you can book appointments. It's not confirmed until the notice comes to us, and we call you back and make sure you're aware of our pricing and things of that nature, and then we confirm the appointment after a phone call.
All right. Good.
But yes, so we use the franchise provided website, so people will have to get on jdogjunkremoval.com, put in their zip code for the area. They'll be connected with the appropriate franchisee, and then the franchisee will contact you.
And from my understanding, you can service pretty much anything around Houston, right?
That's correct. Our specific franchise territories in Northeast, Humboldt, Kingwood, Atascocita, New Caney, Porter. But I'm one of two franchisees in the Houston area, so we're happy to go anywhere north of I-10. If it's not owned by the other JDog franchisee, we'll be happy to help folks.
All right. And then you collaborate with him anyway. So if it is south of 10, then you can get in the right direction. All right. Well, Dennis, I think we got everything possible about you, Katie, and about your business. Again, thank you for your service. I told you all the reasons why, and that's not hollow. And as we go through this Veterans Day, I'm asking our community to kind of think a little more about not thank you for a service, let's not wear an American flag tag or American flag tie and think that's enough. Let's really thank somebody. Let's maybe get on the Houston Area Veterans Chamber website and they actually have a whole website over there of veteran-owned businesses around Houston. Let's think about going and buying lunch from those guys. Let's think about going and shopping at their store. Let's get off the .coms for a second and see if we can support these small business owners that have sacrificed a ton for us. And then, last but not least, let's make sure we find the veterans in our community that maybe need some support or just need a thank you. And let's do it meaningfully the right way. Let's do it with some action. And no, Dennis, thank you so much, and hope you have a great afternoon.
Thank you. You too.